Nizzy, and in this week's video, you guys, we're going to be breaking down the game picks heading into NFL Week 3 here, you guys. So far, we're a 17-13 overall record throughout weeks 1 and 2. I haven't been picking the Thursday games. I've just been doing the videos too late in the week to be able to catch that Thursday game in there, so we've only been doing 15 out of the 16 games so far, you guys. Last week, we finished up with a record of 9-6. Like I said, we're 17-13 overall so far this season. Right, real quick before we go ahead and start selecting the game picks for this week, you guys, if you can go ahead and like this video. If you like sporting content like this, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you're looking for more sporting content like this in the near future, been getting a lot of support on the channel lately, you guys, and I greatly appreciate it. We're going to keep coming out with as many videos as possible for you guys. But without further ado, let's start breaking down our game picks heading into the NFL Week 3 here, you guys. We're going to start off with all the early slot times. We'll start off with Baltimore versus Detroit. Now, this should be, a pretty easy matchup for the Baltimore Ravens here. Hopefully, they're not coming in too cocky after being able to hang on against the Kansas City Chiefs last week in an absolute, probably one of the games of the year, to be honest, you guys. They held on by 1 point. I believe the final score was 35-34. Obviously, that big fumble at the end of the game there by Clyde Edwards-Helaire cost Kansas City that win. So yeah, huge win for Baltimore. First time that Lamar Jackson has beaten Kansas City. He's got an easier opponent this week in the Detroit Lions, who ended up losing to my Packers by a score of 35-17 on Monday Night Football last week, you guys. I think this one's going to be Baltimore all the way. I just think that run game of theirs, even though they got all their running backs injured right now, they've brought in some nice guys like Latavius Murray, Devontae Freeman, obviously Lamar Jackson, one of the best running quarterbacks in the league today. So I'm going to go final score 28-17 for Baltimore. I think they're going to handle things against Detroit here and move to 2-1 on the season and push Detroit to 0-3. Then the second game in the early slots, you guys, we got Atlanta versus Giants. So that's the battle of two 0-2 teams here. I think this one's going to be a close one. There's going to be two teams that are really looking for their first win of the season. They're going to be scrapping and clawing, fighting to try and get that win. If you fall to 0-3, your season's pretty well over. Atlanta had a rough loss last week to the Buccaneers. 3 interceptions from Matt Ryan there for the Bucks to be able to seal the deal. And then obviously the Giants, and just an absolute blunder at the end of their game against Washington, jumping off sides on that field goal, giving them a 5-yard gain, allowing them to kick another field goal for the win. So a tough loss for the Giants and for Atlanta last week. I do like the Giants' defense and offense better than I like Atlanta's right now. I think they got a more complete team than Atlanta. Obviously, they got a coach in his second year with the Giants as well, and Joe Judge, so they're just a little more used to that system comparatively to Atlanta, who's got a first-year coach. So they're still getting used to that system over there. And I just don't trust Atlanta's defense whatsoever, you guys. I think their offense is decent, but at the end of the day, they're just Swiss cheese on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm going to go final score 30-27 for the Giants. I think they're going to get a bounce-back win here and finally get on the board with their first victory of the season and push Atlanta to 0-3. And then we got the Saints versus the Patriots, you guys. This should be a really good game. Saints had a rough one last week, obviously, against Carolina. They just couldn't get anything going offensively. Jameis Winston looked like the Jameis Winston of old. He's going to need to have a big bounce-back game this week if they're going to want to take home the victory. Obviously, they're going against one of the best defenses in the league in the New England Patriots. So it's going to be a tough matchup, I think, for them. Mac Jones has been the best rookie quarterback in the league so far this year. He's been pretty stout, hasn't had a lot of touchdowns. I think he's thrown 1 touchdown, but he hasn't thrown any interceptions through the 2 games. He's been kind of a game manager, but that's what you want from your quarterback, especially a young guy. He's not forcing the ball into tight windows. He's not turning it over, making mistakes, just playing the smart game with it. I like his style of play. I think they got one of the better running back rooms in the league. They got one of the better O-lines as well, the Patriots do. So I think it's going to be a pretty good battle, but I think the defense of the Patriots is just going to be too stout for the Saints to be able to handle. So I think it's going to be the Patriots taking this one by a score of 24-14, you guys, pushing them to 2-1 on the season, and the Saints to 1-2. And then we got the Bengals versus the Steelers, a divisional matchup here. Now this is going to be a pretty good game, I think, as well. Always those divisional matchups, you never know who could win. It could go either way. I think after a tough loss last week for the Steelers, I think they'll be able to bounce back this week. TJ Watt's going to be out. I believe he had that hamstring or the groin injury last week there, so he's going to be out for this week, but they still got a stout defense. You're going to need Ben Roethlisberger in that offense to step up against that Bengals defense there. be able to control the time of possession, not give too many possessions over to Joe Burrow, because I think Joe Burrow's got a pretty good arm on him. Obviously, he's got a lot of wide receiver talent there to be able to throw the ball to. Joe Mixon's one of the best running backs in the league. So I think it'll be a closer game than expected, but I do think the Steelers are going to come out on top here with the final score of 30-21. And then the Colts versus the Titans, you guys. This should be another good game here. I'm not sure if Carson Wentz is going to be playing after he rolled both of his ankles last week. I think it's a game-time decision for him, but it sounds like he's doing everything in his power to try and get out on the field. And then the Titans had a huge comeback win against the Seattle Seahawks. Finished it off in overtime with a score of 33-30. Huge upset over in Seattle, especially with having all their fans back in the stadium. The Tennessee Titans were able to hang on and pull off the victory. Upset there against the Seattle Seahawks last week. Derrick Henry showed up with a huge performance, almost 200 yards on the ground. Just an absolute beast. I think the Colts are going to be in over their head this week. I just don't think with Carson Wentz, if he does play, he's going to be nursing those ankles a little bit still. And if he doesn't play, they're going to be just in shambles at the quarterback position. The Colts will be. So I got the Titans taking this one pretty easily by a score of 27-10 for the final, and they're going to move up to 2-1 on the season, pushing the Colts to 0-3. And then we got Washington versus Buffalo, you guys. I think this one's going to be a pretty solid game. I think that Washington defense is going to step up a little bit to try and keep them in the game. Taylor Heineke will probably have a decent performance again. He's been pretty solid in the few starts that he has had in his career so far with Washington. Buffalo had a phenomenal performance last week against the Miami Dolphins, winning 35-0. That defense was just, suffocating the Miami Dolphins offense there. Obviously, Tua went out with that rib injury, fractured ribs in the first half. Jacoby Brissett had to come in and take over for them. But Buffalo was just dominant in that performance. I think Washington's going to be able to keep it a little bit closer this week, comparatively to how Miami performed against them. But I do think Buffalo is still going to be able to come out on top, you guys, with a final score of 28-21 for the Bills. And then the Chargers versus the Chiefs, another divisional matchup here in the early window. This is going to be a phenomenal game. Chargers have had a rough go so far this season. Haven't been able to be on the right side of some of those close games. Once again, same problem they were having last year as well. So they're going to have to learn how to win those games at the end there. And then their penalties, man. Chargers got to fix their penalty issues. They're probably one of the most penalized teams in the league. So they're really going to have to clean that up if they're going to want to have an opportunity to beat the Chiefs here. I think this one's going to be a high-scoring affair. Both defensive have kind of allowed a few points here. I think the Chargers got a better defense, but the Chiefs' offense is going to be hungry for a W after losing to the Baltimore Ravens last week. So I think the Chiefs are going to have a bounce-back game, be able to get to 2-1, and I think the final score there will be 35-28 for the Chiefs. And then we got Arizona versus Jacksonville, you guys. This should be an absolute rout. I don't see this one being a close game at all. I think Jacksonville is going to get absolutely dusted by Kyler Murray and that Cardinals offense. And then you got guys like Chandler Jones and J.J. Watt coming on the defensive line there for the Cardinals. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be in big-time trouble this week. I see him getting sacked a lot. Wouldn't be surprised if he throws a couple interceptions. I think it's going to be a rough day all around for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think the Cardinals are going to win this one handily by a final score of 42-17 for the Arizona Cardinals. And then we got the Bears versus the Browns, you guys. Justin Fields' first start of the season here in his rookie year. It's going to be an intriguing matchup for sure to see how he performs. I think it's going to be a rough go for him personally. Not by really any fault of his own, but Chicago just does not have enough weapons on the offensive side of the football. And not to mention they probably have one of the worst offensive lines in the league, which just kills you in the quarterback department, especially like Justin Fields being the rookie. He's going to have to be running around a lot, making a lot of throws outside the pocket, scrambling for first downs because he's not going to have a lot of time inside that pocket against that Browns defensive line. They're going to be rushing the passer heavy there. They got nice back-end talent in their secondary as well. So I think it's going to be a tough game for the Bears. I think they'll keep it somewhat close. Justin Fields, I think, will have an up-and-down performance, maybe a touchdown or two, maybe an interception or two. But at the end of the day, I think the Browns are going to take this game by a score of 28-17. And then heading over to the afternoon games, you guys. Afternoon window here, we got the Jets versus the Broncos. Now, this should be another easy one for the Broncos, you guys. They've had a nice start to their season with Teddy Bridgewater. He's been the answer so far at the quarterback slot for them. Just playing really efficient football right now, not really turning the ball over a lot, making huge throws on third and fourth downs, moving the ball, moving the chains, making the right reads, just just being that consistent option at the quarterback spot for them that they haven't had in quite a few years. So I really like what I've seen from him, and obviously that Denver Broncos defense is one of the best in the league. They got a great defensive line. Their secondary is one of the tops in the league, with guys like Justin Simmons. Obviously, the rookie pick, Patrick Surtain, is outstanding as well. So I think they're going to continue on and end up going 3-0 on the start of their season here. I think they'll end up beating the Jets by a score of 24-10. And then we got the Dolphins versus the Raiders, you guys. I think this one's going to be a good matchup here. The Raiders usually end up playing down to their talent and playing up to their talent. Obviously, with the Dolphins having Tua out of the game here with those fractured ribs, you're going to have Jacoby Brissett starting this game. You've seen a much improved Raiders defense so far this year with guys like Casey Hayward on the back end. You got guys like Ngakoue. Obviously, they had Gerald McCoy before he got injured as well. So I really like what I've seen from them. Max Crosby as well has been just an absolute force to be reckoned with on that defensive line for them. Derek Carr's looking phenomenal this year so far. Henry Ruggs has really stepped up as a deep threat within that offense. Hopefully they'll have Josh Jacobs back from that toe injury that he missed last week against the Steelers. And I think the Raiders will be able to hang on for the victory here, although I do think it's going to be a lot closer just because the Dolphins did get absolutely annihilated last week against the Buffalo Bills. So they're going to be coming in hungry to have a better performance no matter who's starting at quarterback for them. They're going to want to play a little better. But I think the Raiders are going to be able to hang on and move to 3-0 on the season with a final score of 27-24 for the Raiders. Then we got the Seahawks versus the Vikings, you guys. This is going to be a freaking awesome matchup. Two teams that are very, very desperate for a win. This is going to be on the Vikings home field, you guys. Obviously, the Seahawks had a rough loss last week, losing in overtime to the Titans. And then the Vikings just with an absolute blunder, missing a 37-yard field goal, basically a chip shot at the end of the game to take the lead over Arizona. And they end up missing that field goal and losing the game by 1 point. Just heartbreaking for the Vikings. I'm kind of happy about it because I'm a Packers fan, but I feel for all them Vikings fans out there because that's a rough go. I think they're going to bounce back this week. I do think it's going to be a very, very close game. But I could see the Vikings getting a last-second field goal again, but this time they're going to kick it through for the win. And I think it's going to be a final score of 30-28 for the Vikings, sending both teams to 1-2 on the season. And then the last game for the afternoon slot, you guys, we got Tampa versus the Rams. This is going to be a phenomenal game as well. Got some great games coming up this week. I'm stoked, you guys, for some Sunday football. Two just absolute bona fide studs of teams. I mean, two teams that are projected to be in the NFC Championship game or have aspirations of heading to a Super Bowl this year. Obviously, the Super Bowl is in the Rams' home stadium, so they're going to really want to be pushing to be the second team in history to make the Super Bowl in their home stadium after the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were able to do it last year. I think this one's going to be a close matchup, but just with a few of the injuries to the Tampa Bay secondary, as well as Antonio Brown being up in the air with that COVID protocols, he's probably not going to be playing in this game. I think it's going to give the Rams that little bit of an advantage there. So I think they're going to be able to hang on for the victory by a final score of 30-24 for the LA Rams, sending Tampa for the first loss of the season. And then we got the Sunday night matchup, you guys. This one's going to be a absolute slugfest between two top teams in the NFC. My Packers are taking on the San Fran 49ers in San Francisco. Now, this one was a tough one, you guys. I mean, I'm a Packers fan, so I always want the Packers to be able to win. But I have to look at this thing realistically and take a look at, do the Packers even have a realistic shot at being able to take this game? Now, unless there's some crazy events that unfold, I really can't see the Packers being able to pull out this victory. I mean, the 49ers have the better offensive and defensive line by far, especially the defensive line. I mean, hands down, they have a way better defensive line than us. Our D-line is probably the worst in the league right now. We pretty much got Kenny Clark and a bunch of nobodies on that D-line. Obviously, Zadarius Smith is out with injury. They haven't had anyone step up in his place. Our defense has not looked that good this season so far. Our offense has kind of been hit and miss so far to start the season as well. Aaron Rodgers has missed a few deep balls, missed a little slant route to MVS in the end zone in the last game against the Lions as well. And the 49ers have just always been able to get victories with Jimmy G healthy at quarterback there. I do think it's going to be a close game. I think it'll be a high-scoring game. But I just don't think we're going to have enough defense to be able to hang on for the victory against the San Francisco 49ers, unfortunately. I do hope we win. I really do hope we win. But I just got to be realistic with it, you guys, and I think San Francisco is going to be able to take this game over us by a score of 33-30, and move it on to 3-0 on the season and sending the Packers to 1-2 on their season. And then heading over to the Monday Night Football game, the last game of the week, you guys, we got another divisional matchup between the Eagles and the Cowboys. Now, I think this is going to be a nice matchup. I feel like no matter who the home team would be here, the home team would win. So if this was going to be played in Philly, I think they'd be able to take the victory over the Dallas Cowboys. But because it is in the Cowboys Stadium, I think they're going to just be able to hang on for a victory here. I do think it'll be a close matchup. Be a little bit more high scoring comparatively to the games they played last week against the Chargers and against the Niners. But I think the Cowboys will be able to hang on, just riding Dak to a victory there with a final score of 30-24 for Dallas. So that's my game picks for the week, you guys. Like I said, we're 17-13 overall on the season, finished up with 9-6 record last week. So hopefully we can keep the trend going here and keep a positive record, stay above 500 football here if we can with our predictions for this week. Would love to get your guys' opinion in the comments section down below, who you think is going to be able to take home the victories this week in week 3. Once again, you guys, I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video and every video on my channel. It means a lot to me, man. Please go ahead and like this video if you like sporting content like this. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you're looking for more sporting content like this in the future. Thank you guys for watching, and this is Nizzy with Nizzy Sports Chat.